League of Legends isn't something that I've ever been able to get into, even for as long as I've known about it. But that's not because it isn't great. It's one of the most popular esports on the planet. You can look to the $2.1 billion it made in 2017 and the $1.8 billion it made in 2022 as evidence of that. Professional players make an average of about $75,000 to $300,000 a year, and its top players are signing deals worth millions of dollars. I think the numbers speak for itself. Even though I have a lot of friends who play who don't fit the stereotype, I'm part of the single player master race, if I do say so myself, outside of fighting games, and I like a good game with a good story, like God of War or Cyberpunk 2077 if I was just going to keep it generic. So I'm not really one to get into multiplayer esports games. While I don't think I'll ever play League of Legends, Arcane on Netflix is some gas, oh my god. And I'm not the only one who felt that way either. The show has the hardware to prove it too. Arcane has won 4 Emmys, being nominated for 5, and it sports a 9 out of 10 rating on IMDb and a 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know what I was expecting when I first saw the show, but a lore-rich story, deeply fleshed out characters, incredible world building, and an immaculate exchange of hands were the last things on that list. I mean, motherfuckers were scrapping. Everybody was getting their shit rocked. Even the kids weren't safe. Damn, I know that shit was crazy, but trust me, it'll make sense when you get to that part. With season 2 of Arcane right around the corner, I thought I'd capitalize on a bit of the hype by talking about the legendary point of season 1 where shit destroyed the fan, and what is, I shit you not, one of the greatest episodes of television I've ever watched. Before we get into the video, first I'd like to thank you guys for getting me to 120 subscribers. Every single one of you mean a lot to me, especially because y'all were here for the start of whatever this channel ends up becoming in the future. In sharp contrast to my last video, I'm going to try to keep this one relatively short, simple, and sweet, but I'm not going to lie to you, that might be a little tough because I'm a premium yapper sometimes, and I tend to get carried away when writing my script if I'm not careful. But enough of the formalities, let's get into it. You know the drill by now. I'm mainly going to talk about episode 3, so I won't go too crazy, but as usual, be warned, there's spoilers ahead. As with any story worth its salt, Arcane is a certified character writing carry job. The principle of show don't tell was shot directly into the veins of the entire show, especially with the characters. From the first episode, we're introduced to our main duo, Violet and Powder, as they walk through what looks like straight up hell during the closing blows of a brutal war between Piltover, a vibrant, decadent city overlooking the ocean, and Zaun, a dark, dilapidated and oppressed undercity. With a mere glance, we're shown that the siblings' parents have already been unalived, and the only person they have left, Vander, has just made a vow of pacifism after seeing the devastation he contributed to. I know his ops were thanking every god they believed in when this happened, because as we'll come to find out later, there's a lot of people you can pick a fight with, but this motherfucker is not the 1, 2, or 3. There's just no way you see this nigga in a fog of war and think that you're not getting folded in a heartbeat. In a characterization masterclass, we get to see our main characters tackle a heist together to make ends meet. We have Violet, Milo, Clagger, and Powder. Their strengths and different approaches to their obstacles are highlighted in even the smallest details, like how they make the jump from one building to another on the rooftops of a Piltover residential area. Vi confidently and almost effortlessly makes the jump. Milo takes his time but securely makes the jump. This big bone nigga Clagger even manages to finesse himself a cupcake sitting on the balcony while making the jump. And after some encouragement from her big sister, Powder works up the courage to make it across, although she almost fell in the process. We see Milo trying to put his lockpicking stat to good use once they make it to their destination, only for Vi to say f all that BS as she kicks the door down. Like I said, examples of this are sprinkled all throughout the show, so this is really just the beginning. On this heist, the crew raids the home of a scholar named Jace, and turns out this motherfucker was keeping some very dangerous crystals of mass destruction, which catches Powder's attention, leading to her swiping them, having no idea what they can do. These crystals were so powerful, just one of them was capable of setting off a crazy explosion within the apartment during their escape, knocking everyone but Vi off their feet because she's just built different, and causing so much damage it caught the attention of just about every enforcer in the area. More on these crystals later, because trust me, they're important. Unfortunately, the crew chose to steal from the wrong ones. That building ended up being owned by a very prominent family in Piltover who were not finna let this shit slide, leading to the wrong type of attention being put on Zaun and Vander having to clean up Vi's mess. To her credit, Vi is a strong leader. She takes full accountability for the failed heist and even backs up her team even though their mistakes were huge factors in it, a trait Vander could only be so angry at, considering he's the one who molded her this way. He even made sure her hands were certified, so he would never be worried about her standing on business, but only when necessary and not as an aggressor. Her main priority is clearly to make sure she and Powder are taken care of, essentially by any means. Vi will always have her sister's back, but damn, that's made exponentially more difficult at times because despite the girl's skill points being heavily invested in intelligence and sharpshooting, she's clumsy as all hell. She means well, but the devices she builds more often than not end up being duds, leading to her coming up short in critical moments, a trait the rest of the crew are all too familiar with. So as I mentioned before, all Vander wants to do is make this mess go away, keep the peace in Zaun, and protect his family. He even has a secret agreement with the Piltover enforcers, ensuring nothing ever has to get out of hand. But unfortunately for everyone, that won't work this time, because the block is just way too hot. Even then, instead of selling out his family, Vander shows just how much of a real nigga he is by offering up his own head, something Vi was also prepared to do because she's cut from the same legendary cloth. If things were able to go as planned, the story might have ended right then and there, but unfortunately, Silco, the main villain of season 1 and Vander's friend turned eternal rival, had other things in mind. You see, as the leader of the city's criminal underworld, Silco has been scheming for years, trying to forcefully enact his own vision of Zaun's liberation from the bottom of Piltover's gold-plated boots by developing a super drug called Shimmer, capable of violently mutating anyone unlucky enough to have that coursing through their veins, dramatically pushing all their physical stats way past its limits. Where Vander chose the peaceful route, opting to play along with Piltover for the sake of protecting everyone, armed with Shimmer, Silco plans to destroy them by any means necessary, starting a war of twisted liberation. This is a sentiment that's really difficult to judge because you can't oppress an entire group of people for generations and then clutch your pearls when they don't react the way that you would like. Right before Vander is able to hand himself over to Piltover with the help of his roided up lackey and an overeager rookie enforcer determined to make a name for himself, Silco is able to capitalize on his so-called brother's moment of weakness, capturing him and killing anyone standing in his way, preventing any kind of peace agreement with his ops, just like that one Japanese soldier still fighting long after the war was over. Left with no choice but to slide for her mans, Vi rallies her soldiers and tells Powder to stay her clumsy ass at home because there's just no room for any mistakes when suiting up for the kill. Honestly, I don't think you niggas are prepared for what's about to go down, so I'm telling you now, you better strap in because you're about to see some shit. Before I get into that, there's some very important information I need to fill you guys in on first. Remember those crystals I talked about before? For years, Jace, the aforementioned scholar, has been researching them ever since he and his mother had their lives saved by a mage capable of changing the climate around them from a deadly blizzard to a beautiful springtime wonderland, using the arcane energy contained within just one of those crystals. He's a good boy, so like the shonen protagonist that he is, he dreams of harnessing those crystals so he can change the world for the better someday. Unfortunately, the 307-year-old dean of the academy and the head of Piltover's council, Heimerdinger, vehemently opposes Jace's research, believing in all his years of wisdom that some things are better left unsolved. Too bad he really didn't know ball, because you should never tell a shonen protagonist they won't achieve their dreams, because now their entire life will be dedicated to proving you wrong, and most of the time they succeed. Unfortunately, Powder also believes she's that protagonist, and as you'll come to find out in a bit, it's just not that simple. After a successful infiltration into Silco's hideout, Vi and the crew quickly locate Vander, armed with a very well-made strategy to get him the fuck up out of there. That's until they immediately find out that this was all according to Silco's plan, and those poor saps walked right into his trap. Within moments, the crew was about to get squad wiped by a bunch of goons waiting for their opportunity to crash out. He would have gotten away with it too, but like I said before, Vander made sure Vi's hands were certified, and she wasn't gonna let a single op get in their way. Not even the biggest, beefiest motherfucker they had. Not a single soul was prepared for what they were about to witness. With the shot clock winding down, Milo lockpicking with everyone's lives depending on it, and Clagger smashing through the wall to make an escape route, Vi comes through in the clutch, buying everyone time by beating the shit out of every single ass nigga stupid enough to step to her. It's not like they weren't getting their licks in either, but when a person has something they want to protect, that's when you experience true strength. Even Silco was taken aback when this monster stared him dead in the eyes while taking down every single one of his goons. Almost. While all this was going on, two very important things were happening at the same time. First, after being detained for possessing those highly unstable crystals, and with the help of Mel Medarda, a shrewd councilwoman who sees his research as her ticket into critical acclaim, and Victor, a senior member of the academy and Heimerdinger's direct assistant, Jace is able to complete his research under intense pressure of his own, finally unlocking the true power of science and magic, showing everyone that he was actually cooking the whole time. Second, even after Vi had explicitly told her to stay home, Powder comes to the conclusion that those very same crystals could be the key to unlocking her contraptions, finally giving her a way to help everyone instead of being a burden. With that in mind, she sneaks in after her friends, determined to save them by any means necessary. However, Silco had his own plans to put an end to all of this, and when he finally pulls out the shimmer, all that momentum came to a screeching halt. Vi put in work, but even she wasn't prepared to deal with the goddamn infraggable Crunk, requiring her to make a desperate retreat and one last stand before their opportunity to escape. It's a good thing the crew finally managed to get the job done. With Vander's restraints unlocked and Clagger creating a way out, the stage was set for a successful rescue. That is until Powder's device, armed with the crystal she knew nothing about, finally goes off, unaliving Clagger and eventually Milo, robbing our crew of any chance they had to escape, rendering their entire mission useless. Even then, like I said before, there's a lot of people you can pick a fight with, but this motherfucker is not the 1, 2, or 3. And fueled by the loss of his loved ones, Vander comes back swinging, taking on the wall his protege was unable to defeat, only to be stabbed in the back by Silco, who knew better than anyone that his brother was gonna get right back up.
I knew you still had it in you.
Even on his last legs, Vander still didn't give up, and with the threat of Vi's life being in danger, he exposes himself to the shimmer, eviscerates the infraggable Crunk, forcefully regains a semblance of his sanity, and saves Vi from the explosion that would have ended her life, putting all this chaos to an end and leaving her with one last message.
Vander.
Take care of Powder.
And that, my friends, is where I'll stop, because when it comes to Arcane, that's only the beginning of what's in store for you when you get started. So far, I've only discussed episode 3 and everything leading up to it, a mere third of the entire show. There's so much more to Arcane that I would love for you to check out for yourself. I've been waiting years for season 2, and I don't believe for 1 second that it's gonna let me down. Love was put into this production, and it was felt through Arcane's premium and groundbreaking animation, and a truly compelling story they were able to tell that explores themes of loyalty and duality. My favorite thing about the show is that this is really just the beginning of what Riot Games could potentially put out in the future. Violet, Powder, and the rest of the characters presented in season 1 of Arcane are just a handful of the storylines present in League of Legends backlog. And if they can just lock in and continue to put out shows of this quality, Riot Games has a chance to put forth an animated universe capable of rivaling the prime MCU.